And welcome into Hot Reads, our weekly look at the NFL with Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman. My name is Tom Vandervoort, and Troy, another look for you at the New York Giants who travel to San Francisco. And I'm interested really in the process of getting up for these big games. The Niners obviously a big-time opponent for the Giants who come off a big win against the New England Patriots. Is there a difference really in the NFL between a big game like this and just a sort of run-of-the-mill game? And if so, what would that be?
Well, I would tell you that it's, we hear about it a lot when people say it's hard to get up emotionally for each game each week. And I think sometimes fans, really find that hard to believe considering you only play 16 games. So you have 6 days in between, and why is it so difficult? And I think it's just the fact that, when you get ready to play a big game like the Giants had, for instance, on Sunday night against the New England Patriots, those type of games are pretty easy to get excited for. There's going to be a lot of people watching them. There's a lot of interest. You're going to have to play well in order to win the game. And then when you get ready to play a little bit of a lesser opponent, it's hard to kind of match that same intensity during the week in practice and then as you go into that ball game. That's not going to be the case in this game that you talk about this week between the 49ers and the Giants because both teams are playing so well.
Gotcha. Now, when we look at the Giants facing the Niners, obviously the Niners are very impressive on the defensive side of the ball, particularly at linebacker, young, athletic. They're stopping the run, leading the league in that category. How do the Giants attack a defense like this? Do you go right at it? Do you have to work around it? Giants aren't really running the ball that well themselves this year.
No, they've struggled. And even if they were running the ball well, this, as you said, is going to be a tough ball game to have success on the ground. And I think looking at this particular game, the Giants are going to have to be able to rely on their defense. Not that they don't each and every week, but if the Giants were to get down by a lot of points, this would be a team that would be very difficult to come back from because, as we said, they're so good in so many different areas. So you've got to be able to capitalize on your opportunities, knowing that they're not going to be a lot of them. And then probably more importantly, and this isn't something that I would say each and every week, but I think you've got to first not lose the game. And what I mean by that is because the 49ers do such a good job of creating takeaways that you've got to be conscious of that and protect the football. There's nothing wrong with punting the ball. And I think that's one of the main reasons why the 49ers have been so good this year. Great defense, good special teams. They give the ball to their offense with a short field. I think those are the things you've got to be careful about as you go in to face them.
And when they do give the ball to their offense, Alex Smith is the quarterback, and this is a guy in, I think, his 7th year who really has opened some eyes. I know a lot of people had a lot of question marks about this guy heading into the season, and he seems to have answered at least some of those. And then we look at some of the young quarterbacks, Andy Dalton, Cam Newton, Tim Tebow, still very early in his career. How many games is really enough to evaluate a quarterback, and what are you looking to see with different guys before you know, hey, we really have something here?
Guys develop at different paces. I think that in general, you can look at a guy in a short sample of games and have a pretty good idea as to whether that guy is going to have a chance to go on and have success or whether he's going to, possibly struggle. So, right now with Cam Newton and the things that he's done, it's real easy to project that he's going to have a pretty good career. Andy Dalton, the same situation, Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, we've seen those guys. And then there are others, myself included, that it didn't happen right away. It takes a couple of years, and that in years past had been the norm. But I think that if you were to look at certain quarterbacks who, even though they maybe struggled initially in their rookie seasons or in their first couple of years, I think there are certain signs that you can look to say, hey, this guy's going to be able to make it. What those are, I think it's just more of a feel than anything else as to how they handle adversity, how do they throw, how do they process information, how do they deal with late-minute drives in games and the decision-making process, things of that nature. And then there's some quarterbacks who, even after 6, 7 years, people are still a little hesitant to really say that, yeah, this is a guy who we can build a franchise around. So there's a lot of variables that go into that. Hey, it's not a science, and that's why that so many people, so many great football people, never truly agree on what it is exactly that they're looking at. I mean, there's been a lot of missed picks over the years with some high picks at that position. Everybody's trying to find that guy, because once you do, then you can go on and have great success. You know, a great example of that here recently is Aaron Rodgers. He was in that same draft class as Alex Smith. A lot of people passed on him. Right now, he's playing as well as anybody that's ever played the position in the history of the football game.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because it seems like a lot of times we'll look at the stats, or we'll look at the numbers, or we'll just look at how the guy throws the ball, and then some people will come back and say, hey, it's all about winning. So you look at a guy like Tim Tebow, who for the life, I'm just confused about the guy, I have to admit. I don't know what to think about him, really. Can you evaluate a quarterback on wins, or should you really just look at the performance of the guy himself?
Well, that's an interesting one, because when ultimately you say, hey, you know, the guy wins and that's your only defense, you know, then typically organizations are looking to replace that guy, because they feel then that they're winning, you know, in spite of the quarterback instead of because of the quarterback. And I'm all for wins. I mean, hey, you know, winning really defined my career. It's why I'm in the Hall of Fame, and I understand that. But I think that, you know, when that's the only thing that is being said about a quarterback, generally it's because, you know, the organization feels that there's other things that are missing. But having said that, at the end of the day, that's really what the position is all about, and that ultimately is what every quarterback's measured on.
Absolutely. And one guy that we really don't have too many questions about because of his past performance and all the things we've seen over the years is Tom Brady. I know you had a good look at him last week, and people are starting to wonder, is he off a little bit this year? Is something not right a little bit this year? 10 interceptions through 8 games. 14 is the most he's ever had in a season. Did you see anything there that raised some question marks, as small as they might be, about Tom Brady?
Well, no question marks. I think you know, he's obviously a great player, and you know, has he been as sharp here in recent weeks as we've seen him at other times in his career? I would say no. I thought that, you know, he struggled a little bit against the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple of weeks ago. I felt that he struggled last week, certainly against the New York Giants. He missed a couple of throws. I know there's some throws that he'd like to have back. Those are throws that we don't typically see, you know, from Tom Brady, and so there's clearly a reaction to that. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. He's certainly not injured, as far as I know. I think that, you know, there's a lot of pressure within that organization, because it's an organization that's accustomed to winning. There's been a lot of changes, a lot of things happening, certainly on the defensive side of the ball. There's pressure on that offense to score points. It was an offense throughout the early part of the season that was creating a lot of big plays, and sometimes, you know, when you become an offense that is making those big plays, that's really great when it's happening. Sometimes when it starts to not happen for you, there comes some frustration within the team, because you just don't feel like you're playing quite as well as you were, and so you start pressing a little bit. I don't know that Tom is necessarily pressing, but I think he understands that for that team to win, they've got to score a lot of points, and so you find yourself maybe trying to force a few throws that you otherwise wouldn't try to make.
All right, man, very good. Well, appreciate your thoughts today. Enjoy the city by the bay, and we will catch up with you next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, Tom.